Look, if you have a full household, you've got kids, possibly partners running amok, chances are it's constantly messy. Well, over the break, my husband and I actually did a massive clear out of a whole lot of stuff in the house, a trailer load of stuff we waved goodbye. And no doubt you've done that too. I think every household goes through it at one stage or another. So I wrote up some house rules as well, things that just to keep the house running smoothly, because I'm a big believer that if you cook the meal, you shouldn't have to do the dishes. Of course, if it's just you in the household, then, well, you've got no option. But here's my house rule. If someone else has cooked, and these are laminated on the fridge. Yeah. If someone else has cooked a meal for you, then you should do the right thing and clean the dishes. Most can go in the dishwasher. The silver pots can be given a good rinse and put in the dishwasher if there's room. For bigger dishes, they can be soaked, but they really do have to be washed the next morning. Otherwise, the kitchen stinks. Can I just say that one came about because I cooked a roast one Sunday night and soaked the pan, and I thought, let's just see how long that sits there. I swear to you, now this was before Christmas, it would still be sitting there if I hadn't cleaned it. So I had a tanty, which you can imagine went down really well. But this is why house rules exist. What are the house rules at your house? 1300 222 612, or you can text me 0467 922 612. Or have you had some very quirky house rules in the past? Maybe living in a share house, or maybe your parents had a very strange one as well. 1300 222 612. Let's go to Michelle Janssen. She's a family and couples counsellor from North Brisbane Psychologists. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Kelly. How are you?
Good. House rules. Every house has them, don't they?
Well, some do and some don't. I think that's why we have to talk about it. I was laughing along as you were describing yours. I love it. I love that you've done that. It's so great. Have you had any good results from it so far?
Actually, yes. I mean, in my house, it's 3 adults. So, I'm not having to deal with 10-year-olds or, teenagers who don't want to help out. But it just got to the point where I thought, right, we're putting this in writing. And I did put it to them and say, look, if you want to change any of these or if you have an issue, tell me. I probably may have been a bit scary when I said that, and they might not have wanted to actually argue with me. But putting it in writing seems to have, and doing a roster for things, seems to have settled the situation and me down.
Yeah, look, I did sense that there was a bit of sternness coming from you there, but it does sound like you've been really collaborative and trying to be equitable in your home, which I think we could all do more of. So I work with a lot of new parents, a lot of parents primarily in my couples work, and this is the thing that comes up the most, the mental load and this big thing around making what seems to be invisible work visible. So, you were talking about the dishes being in the sink. Okay, that's quite visible. But, everything else, all the calendar stuff, insurance, organising social events, organising holidays, all that kind of stuff really can just disappear into this void where maybe our partner doesn't understand, or, you're talking about having adult children in the house or your older children. And so what I try and work with couples on is really trying to make that invisible work visible. And it is exactly what you're talking about, making it written down and obvious.
Because otherwise it does become and sometimes people just don't think about the fact that someone has to do it. That the magic house cleaning fairy, unless you're lucky enough to have a live-in housekeeper, an Alice of your own, Brady style, which most of us don't, that someone has to do it. And that's often left to the kitchen cleaning fairy, who apparently comes in before she goes to bed and makes everything, beautiful for the next day.
Yeah, that's right. And I think even if, I have friends and clients who have house cleaners, but still there's clutter, there's day-to-day stuff, there's life stuff. So even if you have access to that, it's still so much. And so what I like to talk about with my clients is really working on getting a really clear system in place. And the system that I've started using is one called Fair Play Yeah, so Eve Rodsky, she's a lawyer but turned author from the US, and she's written a book called Fair Play, and also has this deck of cards that you can set out, and it's got everything listed on it, from the junk drawer in your kitchen that never gets sorted
Yeah.
to who hosts this, who's in charge of coordinating extended family stuff, who buys gifts,
Mm.
everything that you can imagine. There's 50 something cards, and she really encourages people to have a date night with your partner and lay those cards out and say who does what. So
Yep.
you can just get a sense of, oh gosh, like I have 50 cards, you have one card, or, you
Yep.
know,
I must
that
admit,
sort
my
of thing.
husband's very good. And isn't it funny the language we use around husbands doing things? Like, oh, he's very good. Like he had a mother who trained him well, but
Yes.
it's still that thing of there's a lot of work that is left to one person, and that started to get annoying for me. But do house rules work once they're in place, or not?
I think they do. I mean, if you have if it's like what you've done, Kelly, like you said, you admitted that it's scary at the
Mm.
at the start. But if you really try and be collaborative and say, also, you appeal to what are your natural interests, what are you naturally good at, what is realistic around our schedules, of
Yep.
course, so you're having to just, let's get assumptions out of the way, let's get anything like that out of the way, and be really realistic about these kind of conversations. And then if you do that, rather than just putting a system in place,
Yep.
have those conversations first, make sure you're both on the same page, and then in that sense they do tend to work. Yeah.
With me tonight, Michelle Janssen, family and couples counsellor from North Brisbane Psychologists. We're talking about house rules and whether or not they've worked for you, and what were the rules at your house. Now, see, I find this one interesting, Michelle. It's come in on SMS from Mick at Auriga. And Mick says, grew up with a huge number of very social relatives. Rule number one amongst everyone whoever was that whoever had the gathering, no one else contributed to the washing up. That way, when the gathering was anywhere else, you didn't have to help with the dishes and just go home very happy.
Mm.
See, I find that interesting, because if I was at a do and somebody else had put on the food, done all the work, blah, blah, I think the washing up was the least of what I could do. And I do wonder, Mick, with love and respect to you, Mick, whether the women were doing it and you just didn't know, so you thought there was nobody else helping with all that, but it was just you and the other blokes who weren't helping. Maybe that's me being very sexist. You can ring in and say that's so wrong, Kel. 1300 222 612. But if that's the way it went, that's really interesting. Look, we're hosting the do, we're having it. So therefore, and I suppose if it's going to a lot of houses too, Michelle, that's okay. But if you're the one constantly having it at your house, yeah, I think that might get a bit wearing very quickly.
Well, this is it. And look, I feel a bit guilty on this, because I often go to my brother-in-law's and he does the cooking, and then he wants to do the dishwasher and all that sort of
Oh,
stuff.
is he one of those dishwasher people who must have it a certain way?
Yes, he's an aficionado of that. So,
Yes.
So great respect to him. Thank you so much for hosting us all the time. But that just goes to show every family's different, right? Like every family has different rules. And so long as it gets a bit harder when you've got friends and extended family and stuff, but in your own home, whatever works for you, that's what, you need to do. And I always think about, it's not just about the tasks as well, because sometimes, people will come into couples counselling and, they'll fight about where the cutlery is being put in the cutlery drawer. And often it's not usually about that, right?
Yeah.
There's some deeper need for order, for safety, for a lack of chaos, for acknowledgement. That's why I really encourage not just the task list or the house rules list, but the conversation about the need and why you need it and why you'd love it to be this way.
All right. Now, Mick's rung up, so I'm very happy about this. Hi, Mick.
G'day, how you going?
Good. Okay. Now, have I unfairly tarred you with the bloke sitting doing nothing brush?
Yeah, a little.
Okay. That's all right.
This is my childhood. So we had a very large family. It was sort of like all from Mauritius. So they were all sort of very social and enjoyed getting together and having a feed. So it would rotate between so many families. And, the general rule was that you had a good time and you didn't have to contribute to the dishes because, you know, when it comes around to your place, then
that's your turn. Okay, so there was a reasonably even distribution of when it was going to be your turn too. So, and that was fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was kind of an unspoken rule. You know, like everyone understood that was the deal. You know, you have a good time, you know, and everyone has a good feed, and it's just a big hen house. And at the end of the day, everyone goes home and they don't have to stick around and you know,
and clean up. All right, I like that. If it's even, then I think that's actually a really good idea.
It's pretty even, you know. Like it was an unspoken rule, and everyone, you know, just understood that. You know, thank you all for coming. You waved them all down the driveway, and you know, Mauritian. Well, I think it's very French as well. You just keep waving until everyone's left down the street, and then
make sure they go. Yes. Au revoir.
And then you turn around and go inside and sort it all out.
Mick, that's brilliant, and a great house rule. Thank you.
Wow, pleasure. Thank you.
Mick Ederiga. So that makes sense. If you are going to if you've got a big family and you are sharing those sort of events, then Michelle, that's a good rule, isn't it?
I think that's a great rule, yeah. And if it's understood, it sounds like in that family system, it was really understood that that's the way it was. So I think if everybody's on board with it, then, as I said, go for it. If it works, do it.
ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland, 7:25. We're talking about house rules tonight. And what are your house rules that maybe, you know, you think not everybody does it this way? 1300 222 612. Neradine from Younger Boroughs called in. Hey, Neradine. You there? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, Neradine. That was my fault. How you doing?
Really well. Can you hear me well,
I
Kelly?
can. That was me, not you.
Oh, good. It's usually me.
No. So tell us what the house rule you have is that you think might be different to others.
Well, Kelly, I stole the idea, so I can't own it really. But I don't have a dirty clothes basket in the house for the children. My children are mostly grown now. But our little rule is that after you have your shower at night, the rule is you put your clothes in the washing machine. And I basically turn the washing machine on and done and dusted. So we don't have dirty clothes hanging everywhere. My daughter still lives at home. So she or I or my husband, someone hangs the clothes up in the morning, and whoever's home first in the afternoon, the expectation is they pull them in. So the clothes are done much more automatically rather than, you know, in a big pile at the end of the week.
Yep. See, I like that idea as well. And can I just say, one of the things that was getting up my nose, and I don't want to dob in the person who was not doing this, but can I say it wasn't me and it was my husband. The rule is for your clothes. Exactly, your clothes are your responsibility. If someone else is nice enough to throw them in the wash, be grateful. But also the rule is that if somebody else has, and it usually is somebody else, and I don't mind doing washing actually, it doesn't bother me, but if you do the washing, you hang it out, you bring it in, you've given it a basic fold, except for the ironing, which is folded and put it in the ironing basket, then take your clothes upstairs. Why does it take one day to do washing and 5 to 7 business days for things to be actually put in bedrooms?
Kelly. I agree, Kelly, except my husband will pick up his pile and take to the room. But when I go in, I would automatically pick his up as well. So it's got to cut both ways, Kelly.
It does. This is it. But see, they don't see that as, you know, it's more, I'm helping you out, taking my clothes up rather than maybe I can take both up. And you just want to throw their socks at them, don't you? Like, take it all for the love of all that's holy. Indeed. But I like that,
anyway,
straight into the washing machine.
Kelly. Good on you.
Thanks, Neradine. And Michelle, this is it, isn't it? Some people can still have their clothes on the washing line 4 days after they hang it out, like my producer.
Well, Kelly, I'm that person. I'm like your producer. I feel really bad. I feel like I need to revisit the cards myself.
That's it. But it is annoying because everyone's house ends up looking like, you know, a laundry. It's like, why? Why don't we all do this? What is it about taking clothes actually to your bedroom or wherever and putting them away? It takes 5 seconds.
I don't know. It's too hard. But I know. I think that's some personal responsibility stuff, right? Like if you're really having some explicit, open conversations like we've been encouraging, hopefully that will work. If you're not clear on whose responsibility it is, maybe, I don't know, maybe you need to have a chat about it.
I can get very passive aggressive about these things, which is, obviously not difficult to imagine. But I have stood there because we've got a 2-story house and there's a chute from the bathroom to the laundry. So you don't even have to take your dirty clothes downstairs. You just throw them down the chute and voila. And I have seen clothes in front of it, Michelle, and have brought my family in and gone, I just want to show you how this works. And they look at me with this, oh, my God, do we have to go through this? Look. And, we open up the door and throw them down. Look at that. It's magic. And I'm sure that there are other people going through this same, just why is it so hard? Why put your clothes in front of it when you can just throw them down? Why?
Yeah. Why? Yeah, look, and there's so many like that. The clothes basket seems to be a favourite, but I think, if I can get serious for a second, I think it comes back to needs-based communication. It's about being able to really say how this affects you, why it affects you, and when people start to know that and can understand that and empathise with that, kids, partners, whoever, it tends to shift.
Yeah,
that's my hope, and I have seen that work.
Yeah, that's it. Just and as you say, getting to the root of it, which is we're all adults here, so they've reacted very well. I have to give them credit. They have reacted very well to my tanty, and it was a tantrum, but a kind of a necessary tantrum. Can I tell you a story, Michelle? And I know my mother is probably listening. Because when we were, there are 3 kids in my family, and when we were all adults, can I say, she came home one day, and she's always worked very hard and has been a full-time worker as well as full-time mum, of course. And my dad worked, mum and dad were together, all was well. But she came home one day and the house was it was chaos. And she just looked at it. It was a Friday night. She's come home from work. She has turned around and gone and booked herself into a motel. It's stuff of legend at our house.
That is incredible. And I'm sure there are many women out there who could take a leaf out of your mum's book. That is amazing.
Yep. She was just like, nope, I'm not having it. Ring me when it's, I'll be back tomorrow and it better be tidy.
Yeah, so she's got some good boundaries in place. That wasn't okay with her. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. So if you're thinking of a way to put your foot down, well, that was Judith Lorraine's way of making her displeasure felt. Michelle Janssen, it's been lovely having a chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it. Thanks, Kelly.
Michelle Janssen, family and couples counsellor from North Brisbane Psychologist, who no doubt is going to want to see me on a one-to-one basis after that conversation tonight.